All right, let's get into it.
An interesting contradiction may have just appeared in Japan's public response to the UFO UAP issue. If this translation is accurate, Japan's chief cabinet secretary said two seemingly incompatible things about the same footage in the same press conference. First, he said, "I have also reviewed the released footage myself." And then about a minute later, he said, "Since this is my first time seeing it, I'd like to analyze it carefully." Same official, same footage. Now, here's what they were talking about. Newly released unresolved U.S. military case, one that was included in the Department of War file release, named DOW UAP PR047. It's infrared footage. It's from 2023. It's about 2 minutes long. The official description is that there's 3 distinct areas of contrast, maintaining a fixed position and orientation relative to one another. This is still unresolved. So, what would explain the contradiction in those statements? Could there be a translation issue? Perhaps. Could it be a phrasing nuance? Perhaps. You know, there are a couple of possibilities. But I think what matters more is that Japan just publicly acknowledged that unexplained aerial incidents affecting national security are actively being taken seriously. The information's being collected, it's being analyzed, there's coordination with the United States, and public disclosure decisions, they said, will be made on a case-by-case basis. That is definitely not dismissal by this high-ranking individual. So the bigger question is, if the U.S. starts publicly releasing unresolved UAP cases, like they are allied governments now going to be forced to publicly address what they might know?
If you are aware of Project Bluebeam, this may be the start of it, where one government starts to reveal this information about this extraterrestrial life form, and then the next thing, all the other governments are following along until this alien invasion happens. I'm not saying I believe in that, but I could see this being the start of it. Let me know what you guys think.
I've heard all kinds of people covering the hantavirus on the cruise ship, but can we talk about what happened on this Disney cruise ship? So apparently, this Disney cruise ship docked in San Diego and 28 employees were arrested. Or, well, detained. It was a massive CP bust. It's really weird I haven't seen more people covering this, but I really think that the hantavirus cruise ship thing is kind of a cover-up for this, for Disney. Because even when you read the article about what was found on this ship, right above it is the hantavirus ship. It's all kind of checking all the boxes because Disney's been accused of stuff like this before. What I find absolutely insane, though, is all 28 people who were associated with this are just getting a slap on the wrist. They're getting their visas taken away and sent back to their home countries. And Disney will not disclose whether or not the victims in this were victims that were on these cruise ships. They're actually not confirming or denying anything other than what's in the police report over what happened with it.
I have been hearing about this for almost a week. I looked into it to see how accurate all this was, and for the most part, it is pretty accurate. Disgustingly so. But it was not all on the Disney cruise line. About 10 of the predators were there, and the rest were caught from other cruise lines. Now, from what I'm reading here, no harm was done to children, but the viewing of children being harmed was. It was basically a CSAM transportation operation, and the majority of these people were from the Philippines. So with that, really all that happened was that they had their visas revoked and they were deported. And it says here that Disney cooperated with the authorities and the detained workers were fired. Way to go, Disney. Yeah, there's some real sick people out there.
China needs to chill the out. Unitree Robotics have just unveiled what they say is the world's first production-ready manned mecha called the GD-01. And you know it's real when they have to warn everyone to be sure to use the robot in a friendly and safe manner. Bro, we about to get some super villains. Now, not only is this thing massive, standing at 8'8", weighing 1,100 pounds with the pilot inside, so way bigger than a human, but also it looks like it can punch through walls and switch between two-legged and four-legged movement on command. Now, the reason people are losing their minds is that this isn't just a prototype like we've seen many times before. This is now a real commercial product that anyone can buy. The first of its kind for $650,000. But, believe it or not, that actually is considered a pretty reasonable price for the robotics that will go into this.
I understand that the engineering is really impressive, but $650,000? That seems to be a bit much, don't you think? I would really have to see this thing used in everyday practice, because honestly, that is really cool, but the price is just diabolically unrealistic. And I also really want to know how it's standing upright. It must have some kind of stabilizer in it, meaning if that thing runs out of battery, or gas if that's what it takes, and that stabilizer stops, that's going to be a nasty heavy fall. But like I said, I'm actually really curious to see these in action, see what they're fully capable of. Let me know what you guys think. Hey, if you haven't done so already, and if you're enjoying the show, give it a like. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. I upload a video like this 2 times a day, Monday through Saturday, early in the morning and later in the afternoon. And for everyone that's made it this far, thank you so much for supporting the channel.
Welcome to my series, I Want to Know. I want to know who this Palm Beach Pete character is, and why he's getting to go on shows like Jimmy Kimmel to make jokes about him looking like the guy that the list is named after. And going, oh, I've gone viral and people love to take pictures of me. It's gross. And I want to know who else agrees with me. I want to know about the Cathedral of Commerce in New York City, otherwise known as the Woolworth Building. This incredible structure was designed by the famous Cass Gilbert. He's got an amazing laundry list of structures that he worked on, designed, and was a part of, but that's another story. This building was built for the retail giant Frank W. Woolworth, who apparently paid $13.5 million in cash to get it done. The building was started in 1910 and it opened in 1913, approximately a 2.5-year build, incredibly fast for the time, and it was the tallest building on Earth for 17 years, and it's 792 feet tall. The skeleton of this building was massive, and it was made out of 24,000 tons of structural steel. The workers were superhuman, as they always are with these old structures. Some of these workers installed 1,153 tons of steel in just 6 working days. And that was a speed record at the time. They just worked harder back then, you know? This building has 2 sub-basements, and the workers sunk massive caissons 66 to 69 feet underground, burrowing into the mud and the clay to solidify the base. Some of those caissons go up to 100 feet underground. The bedrock in this part of Manhattan is exceptionally deep, so they had to go all the way down as far as possible to make sure this place was stable. The Woolworth's famous lobby, hallways, corridors, executive offices, and stair halls used marble only imported from Italy and Greece. Of course, it's the easy way to do it. Ah yes, I will go get it on my back. There's roughly 3,000 tons of marble in this structure. That's equal to about 300 to 500 elephants. Don't get me started on the granite, because they couldn't get it from New York. They had to go to Maine, Vermont, and Massachusetts. So there's about 8,000 tons of granite. Combining the marble, granite, terracotta, and limestone, this building weighs upwards of 223,000 tons. I approve. Old Woolworth should have been pretty happy with all this. Woolworth financed it. Cass Gilbert designed it. Gunvald Oz was the structural engineer. The Thompson Starrett Company were the main builders and general contractors. Aside from those names, there are no names of any of the workers that helped build this structure. The men that put their hands on the stone, that lifted the steel into place. Nope, not important. Don't need to remember who they are. Just know that they did it, because it's there. It's profoundly there. But I still want to know who they are, because these people are artists. But what I want to know, aside from the secret caricatures in the lobby that are looking down on people from the shadows, people like Woolworth, I want to know how deep the tunnels go that connect to the 2 sub-basement levels of this building and where they extend out to in the city. Because it said they also connected to the subways. But what else did they connect to? How far did they connect? And what were they moving through them? I don't know. But I want to know.
I too would like to know, and I agree. Having fun and advertising yourself to look like a major pedophile, it seems a bit disgusting to me as well.
You believe in dinosaurs, but you don't believe in unicorns? Even though there are entire records of them as if they are real creatures, not fantasy or children's stories, real. So take a look at this. This is a book from the 1600s written by a physician all about the unicorn. And what's interesting is it does not read like mythology, it's written like a scientific investigation. So a serious physician spending hundreds of pages studying the unicorn as if it is a part of natural history, and including entire chapters about the powers of the unicorn horn. According to these old texts, unicorn horns horns were believed to purify water, detect toxins, neutralize poisons, and protect from disease. This book even describes ancient rulers drinking from cups made of unicorn horn because they believed the horn could extinguish poison and protect them. Modern historians will say many so-called unicorn horns are just narwhal tusks. Then why are there entire books documenting one-horned land animals separately from the narwhal? Honestly, we've seen this pattern before. Dragons became myths, giants became legends, and advanced civilizations became just stories. Then eventually, the public is trained to laugh at an entire topic before they even investigate it. And maybe that's the real story here. Because when you dig into books like this, you realize what we were taught in history class may not be entirely accurate. And why, when they want to reset the world, they burn the books first. But what do I know? I'm just a conspiracy theorist.
I mean, it really would not surprise me if unicorns exist, or they did exist. We have a number of one-horned animals today. Who's to say 2,000, 3,000 years from now, if rhinos go extinct, that people will look at it as a myth in that time frame that rhinos were even a thing, or narwhals for that matter. Legitimately a unicorn of the sea. When they go extinct, and as time progresses, will they just become a myth?
Welcome to Yester Strange, the daily series where I show you the strangest news from yesterday. So yesterday, in Licking County, Ohio, drivers got a surprise when a full-grown zebra named Zach was spotted wandering along Montgomery Road. Sheriff's deputies responded to multiple calls about the animal casually strolling through the area like he was out for a morning walk. And after a short chase, they managed to corral Zach and return him safely to his owner. And zebras aren't exactly native to Ohio, so seeing one trotting down the road definitely made the local weird news list for the day. And our next story takes us to Atlanta, where Atlanta Journal-Constitution's Nyjah Parker highlighted one of its strangest surviving relics, a tiny one-person jail cell from the 1890s, still standing in Inman Park today. Back then, Atlanta police used these small iron lockup boxes to detain drunks and petty offenders until a horse-drawn patty could come and get them.
There were 4 boxes across the city in the 1890s, but concerned citizens pointed out that these lockups, essentially human mailboxes, were inhumane.
I couldn't imagine just waiting for somebody to come and pick me up to take me to jail. Do you hear the echo?
From then on, these boxes were only used as police gear storage and were eventually removed.
The box is barely big enough for one person to stand inside. Most of these tiny jail cells were torn down a long time ago. Matter of fact, this is the last one standing. It's been hidden in plain sight in Delta Park ever since. It's a creepy little piece of old Atlanta history that somehow survived over 130 years. And that about wraps up today's Yester Strange report.
What if I told you that you are actually living in a dream right now? This list right here, of course, shows all the conspiracy theories from the most well-known to the darkest of the dark. And welcome back, we're going from the top to the bottom. This is known as altered perception. And yeah, you're in for a wild ride, lads. So, you know what a lucid dream is, right? You've probably all had that before, where you are basically awake in a dream and everything feels real. Sometimes it's actually very hard to distinguish whether you're in a dream or it is real life. That is true, that's a fact. You may be doing things in this lucid dream that's just like your normal life. You could be in a dream right now, wouldn't even know. And this is where the theory comes in that we are actually switched. Stay with me. So the theory actually is that what we're in right now, you sitting there watching this TikTok, me filming this video right now, is actually the dream state. So we're all actually dreaming right now, basically asleep, and when we go to bed and dream, that's the real world. Huh? It's hella confusing and doesn't really make too much sense, but when you actually deep it, as I said, you can control your dreams. Sometimes dreams feel so real that you can't tell it's not real. So I mean, deep down it is kind of possible that there would be another sort of consciousness. I don't know. See you in the next one.
If that's the case, I've been dreaming for a long time.
If you think all these data centers are getting built just to keep your pictures up in the cloud, you're kidding yourself. Look, we can't get the roads fixed. We can't get the bridges fixed. We can't get the power grid fixed. We can't feed people. But these data centers are getting put up all over the place like that. These things are getting put up all over the country, and it's happening really quick. In a lot of cases, before people even know what's going on. I had 2 different stints in my life where I lived in a community on the border of Lake Tahoe, And now I see they might lose power up there because it's all going to some data center getting built. I hadn't heard about that till today, and that building's already under construction. Now, I'm not positive what these data centers are for, but I got a pretty good guess, especially since it's the most important thing to the powers to be. They need somewhere to store all the information, and I mean all the information. On you, on me, on that guy, on this guy, on everyone. So this isn't getting stopped, not at all. These data centers are already just about everywhere, and there's more getting built every day. Till next time, if there is a next time. Shabadoo-booshkies, shabadoo.
You know, Joe may not be wrong on this one, but in the sense of them collecting your data, I read in the comments on one of my videos, someone came up with a really interesting theory about these data centers. What if currently they are data centers for storing information, for building AI, but what if their ultimate purpose is to consume consciousness and to basically imprison the everyday person like you and me? Or they could put us in a simulation and have the world operate however they see fit, and we're just programmed to abide. Now, if this theory takes place, that could be 15, 20 years in the future, but overall, it is an interesting theory. When it comes to these data centers, let me know if you have any theories of your own.
9 hikers entered the mountains, but not one of them come back alive. In 1959, 9 very experienced hikers vanished into the Soviet mountains, and what rescuers found still terrifies investigators to this day. Their tent had been sliced open, but from the inside. The hikers ran barefoot into -30-degree darkness, almost like they were escaping something far worse than the cold. Some of the bodies were found frozen underneath a tree, the rest of them completely miles away with crushed ribs, fractured skulls, and one of the victims was completely missing her tongue. But this is where the story gets even worse. There was no signs of a fight, there was no outsider footprints, and get this, some of the hikers' clothing actually tested positive for radiation. Witnesses who were nearby actually reported that they saw these strange orange lights floating across the mountains on that very night. Was it an avalanche? Was it some weird military experiment? Or was it something else? For decades, the Soviet Union completely concealed the investigation, and the official conclusion, an unknown compelling force. Still to this day, nobody knows for sure what scared 9 very experienced hikers to run to a certain death.
I like to explore old creepy websites. Do you want to see one? This is shaystjohn.us. Pretty weird website here. Every time you click a link, it plays some weird noises. I don't know if you can hear that. And I love weird stuff, so let's see what this weird tab is. This one's got a crazy beat going on it. But yeah, I mean, from what I can tell, whoever made this has some weird obsession with dolls. Like, honestly, what kind of freak would have a weird, creepy doll? Anyways, we have a weird video here saying, I adopted a doll with a broken neck. Medication is taken internally daily. The dosage is required. You want to see a little bit of this? There's all kinds of weird links on this website, like Kank. This is Kank. Caw addicts need Caw. Like, what is this, man? Before anybody out there gets the wrong idea about what I am doing in the above animation, let me explain. I am helping her, not abusing her. You guys should go and check it out yourself and let me know what you think is going on behind all this, because I have no idea.
You're a braver man than I. Those are some weird websites, and for some reason, I find it interesting, but I'm not brave enough to go around searching that kind of stuff for myself. I'll just continue to browse through it vicariously through this guy. Let me know in the comments, is that how you enjoy TikTok videos on YouTube? Is mainly because you don't want to go on TikTok and deal with all that junk? So instead you watch a content creator curating clips to react to?
They actually did it. In 1988, the US government found one of the most sought-after ancient artifacts in human history, the Ark of the Covenant. Now, most people think this is just a myth, but this declassified CIA document might say otherwise. The artifact, according to the Book of Exodus, was built to exact specifications, with acacia wood, gold overlay, and 2 winged seraphim on top, said to hold the 10 Commandments, a pot of manna, and Aaron's rod. Enter Project Sunstreak, a secret program under Project Stargate in the 1980s, with the goal of finding out if psychic perception is real and could be exploited for intelligence purposes. This program had more than 30 agents do missions to find specific targets out in the world, and one of them, known as Viewer 32, was sent on a mission to find the Ark of the Covenant, but they didn't tell him what he was looking for or where it was, just some rough dimensions of this object. As it turns out, Viewer 32 described an object that sounds exactly like the Ark. It was a wooden container inside a gold container with silver and decorated with two winged beings on the top, the Seraphim, which pretty much describes what the Ark is supposed to look like. In this page of the document, Viewer 32 said it's hidden in a dark, wet space underground, somewhere in the Middle East, surrounded by people speaking Arabic, near buildings with domed roofs. I think we can get an idea of where it might be. And if that wasn't weird enough, Viewer 32's report also says the object is protected by powerful entities, can only be opened by people who are authorized, and that anyone who opens it before the right time would be destroyed by some unknown force. And this is all in the official CIA report. Now, this is exactly the kind of thing the government spent years experimenting with, something that's called remote viewing, which is the ability to perceive distant places, objects, people, or events using the mind alone. Basically, it's like psychic intelligence gathering. And this wasn't just fringe weirdness. The program involved names like Ingo Swann, who helped develop controlled remote viewing, or Joe McMoneagle, and researchers like Russell Targ and Hal Puthoff at the Stanford Research Institute. Remote viewers were used to look at things like Soviet military sites during the Cold War. Some located missing aircraft, some assisted with hostage cases, and even some helped with missing persons investigations. Now, skeptics say these cases are exaggerated, cherry-picked, or impossible to verify. You could even try to argue if you try to remote view something enough times with your mind, you might get something right. But there have been some interesting success cases where remote viewers have been used, like when President Jimmy Carter back in the 1970s used, and when rescue teams went to the location that was seen by the remote viewer, the plane was actually there. Officially, the CIA concluded that remote viewing wasn't reliable enough for intelligence work and shut the program down in 1995. But when you've got a technique that allows people with apparent psychic abilities to gather intel without having to send someone out in the field to places covertly, you wouldn't want that knowledge to be public, right? Especially with something like the Ark. It could be all coincidence or a lucky guess, but maybe they actually know exactly where this thing is and what it can do.
The following video comes from a witness who was just enjoying the ocean views and really wasn't expecting to record anything, but they did. But the question everybody is asking, what exactly is under the water? We can see that it has a pretty big wake and it's moving fast, but is it an animal or is it something else? We honestly truly don't know, but I love footage like this because it's so cool. It makes you wonder and question what's really under our oceans. Take a look at this video, comment below, tell us what you think.
It does look like it's moving pretty fast, but if it is, it's moving towards that cliffside. I'm kind of leaning more on this being an optical illusion if it's just simply not an AI generated video. But I do think it's a real video and it's just an optical illusion. If you have any guess as to what it could be, let me know in the comments.
This invisible line that sits 37 degrees north of the equator, and it essentially divides the United States into the north and the south. Now, the thing about this imaginary line is the places that it runs through. It is known as the Haunted Highway because this line goes through Area 51, right? It goes through Roswell. It goes through the Four Corners region, which has been synonymous with skinwalker sightings. It cuts through the Ozarks, right, which is an epicenter for paranormal activity. It goes through Monmouth Cave, right, which is known to possibly be this subterranean city that exists in these caves that span thousands of miles. Now, it also cuts through the heart of the Appalachia and into Washington, D.C. Now, the eerie thing about this is if you look at all of these UFO sightings, these major events that have happened along this line, it also passes through the New Madrid Fault Line. And I've started to notice a lot of these places in the north, or in the Four Corners region, where they are seeing these skinwalkers. They are seeing them in the same place in the Appalachian Mountains along the 37th parallel. Now, some people believe this is some type of metaphysical type of ley line, or possibly a tear between dimensions of space and time, and that this attracts sort of these interdimensional beings or evil or negative energy. Now, this is a story that I heard that takes place along the 37th parallel. There was this man named Chuck. Chuck said one night he was driving from Roanoke to Knoxville, Tennessee. He said he was on Interstate 81. It was like 10:05 at night, and it was a completely clear sky. He said as he's driving in his car, he all of a sudden started to feel kind of weird. And he said he almost like went into this daze. Well, he pulls off the interstate and he starts driving down this back highway. Then he gets off onto this dirt road. And eventually he finds himself in the middle of the woods driving down this dirt road high up in the Appalachian Mountains. And he starts to think, like, what is going on? Like, how did I end up here? Like, what made me get off the interstate and drive out into the middle of the woods? So he stops his car and he finally gets a hold of himself. And he's like, all right, how do I get out of here? Like, where do I need to go to get back on the interstate? As he's sitting outside of the car, he notices it's completely quiet. There's no bugs, insects, no sounds of the summer, like nothing. It is quiet. When all of a sudden he hears do 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 do, like this music, and it was coming from the woods. And it was just very soft and very faint, but he could hear it. He's like, there is nothing around here. Like, where is that music coming from? And that's when he felt like there was a presence in front of him. And he said it felt very large. It felt evil and it felt menacing. He could not see it. He couldn't see anything but the woods, but he could feel something was standing behind the car next to him. So he slowly gets in his car, he closes the door, and he locks it. That's when he started to feel vibrations in his car, like something was, stepping really hard right behind him, something big. So he proceeds to start his car up and drive down this road. When he looks in his rear view mirror, he could see something was following him. Even though like he couldn't physically see it, it was like he could feel something was chasing him. So he starts speeding and he's going as fast as he can down this dirt road. That's when all of a sudden his radio turns on by itself and it starts playing the same song that he hears out in the woods. So he's freaking out now, like, I need to get off this road, like something's going on. He tries turning off the radio, the music won't stop playing. And that's when he looks in his rearview mirror again, and he could see the outline of something very large, probably 9 to 10 feet tall, moving behind his vehicle. And he said the next thing he knew, he looked forward, and he found himself 90 miles away, now in Knoxville, Tennessee, about 5 blocks away from his home, sitting in his car. And he still to this day has no idea what happened to him, outside of the fact he was driving on the 37th.
Why in the world would you continue to go down the dirt road and not turn around and go back the way you came? And I mean, hey, it may have been a creepy experience, but if it only lasted like 5 to 10 minutes, and you traveled 90 miles, you may have found an interdimensional highway. It might be a little creepy, you may get possessed, but you'll get to your destination in record time.
The following are 2 pretty clear captures of the Dogman. They were both released on April 16th, 2026, allegedly from the same forest. Both photos show a similar styled creature, but from different angles. The first photo here shows an upright, dog-like figure slightly crouched in some leaves. It was trying to hide on the riverbank. Not much information about who snapped the photo has come out, but both photos are believed to be taken by a lone hiker. But just look at this creature. This isn't something you'd want to run into while alone in the woods. And it obviously is aware of the man's presence and is staring directly at him as he takes the image. And in the second photo, the creature looks more black and upright and slightly slimmer maybe. It's still powerfully built though. It has pointy ears and a canine-like head on a humanoid body. Creepy stuff to say the least. Now most of you know about the Dogman but don't know its origin story. Reportedly, the Dogman legend, as most people know it today, really took off in Michigan in 1987. A radio DJ named Steve Cook created a song called The Legend as an April Fool's prank. The song described a creature that walked upright like a man but had the head of a dog or wolf, and glowing eyes and a terrifying howl. What made things interesting is that after the song aired, listeners began calling in claiming they had actually seen something like that. Some even said their encounters dated back years before the broadcast. That feedback helped turn what started as a joke into a full-blown regional legend. So that's the origin story of the Dogman. But what do you guys think about these two newer images? Are they real, clear looks at this infamous creature? Or are they simply too good to be true?
I personally believe these to be AI-generated images. I could very well be wrong on that. Let me know your thoughts and theories. Now, am I saying that I do not believe in the Dogman? No, I definitely believe that there's something out there that people are seeing. But I have my suspicions on those photos. Let me know your thoughts and theories.
Jeremy Corbell just dropped raw military thermal footage that governments never wanted you to see. The footage is mostly infrared and thermal, FLIR style or electro-optical, showing bright or hot objects against cloudy dark skies with aircraft and drone HUD overlays, crosshairs, altitude, elevation readouts, timestamps and coordinates. It's low res and degraded because it's a recording of a recording, but the objects show anomalous motion, no obvious propulsion in some of these cases, and they're being actively tracked. In the first clip, there's a bright glowing white irregular object, somewhat humanoid or a being-like appearance in low resolution. There's head and shoulders and almost like a lower body or even a trail. It hovers and moves slowly against a cloudy background, and the HUD shows targeting reticules locked onto it. Elevation and altitude data is fluctuating around 200 to 500 meters range in visible readouts. And coordinates are present too. The object pulses or changes shape slightly as the camera platform tracks the object, and in an instant, it zips away. Another orb-like object being tracked over a mountain range making erratic turns, along with multiple formation UAPs with no visible propulsion and in holding formation as they track the skies. Now, across these 8 brand new military UAP videos released in Jeremy Corbell's Sleeping Dog documentary, we're witnessing something unprecedented. Objects with no wings, no visible propulsion, no heat signatures, yet they maneuver with intelligence through clouds, oceans and mountain ranges. Now, these are fresh multi-sensor military data captured in real time and actively tracked by our most advanced systems. The more you watch, the more questions explode. Are these secret human tech, foreign drones, or something far stranger operating in our skies with total impunity? The footage is compelling, but it's also incomplete. We desperately need the full raw files, unedited sensor data, radar tracks, and a complete chain of custody reports released to the public and to Congress. And then we can move forward with the viral clips to real answers. Now, to me, a lot of these look like plasma-based entities, things that have been seen since the beginning of time and have been recorded on stone walls, which is very interesting, but we need more raw data. We need it fully released to the public and to Congress so we can really dig in deep about what these objects may be, or where they are, or where they're from even, you know? So, very interesting.
It is all very interesting. I do not think we'll ever get anything out of this, but whatever they were recording did kind of look like a plasmoid type of entity, and the way it just zipped off like that, really interesting. Let me know what you guys think on this one.
I'm calling it now. We're gonna see a lot of animals die this year, but not just animals, plants and everything else living. And TikTok is my opinion. This right here is not normal. A couple of days ago, I wondered why all of our plants were dying, until I took out the infrared thermometer. I'm gonna show you that in 1 second. All these plants just burning to a crisp. I went to Texas last year, right in the summer for a ministry trip, and it was about 115 degrees outside, right? My front yard with this sun is hotter than it was in Texas in the summer. And before people say, oh, you're a baby, it's just some heat. I was a welder for 7 years and worked 12 hours a day in the sun welding. Never bothered at all. I've always done very well in heat. But this is a different heat. 82 degrees, and the greenery, the plants were 110, 115. It's like living beings. Living beings are the ones picking up more heat from this sun somehow. And in Revelation, it talks about how the sun will scorch mankind in the earth. No, I don't think that's happening now. I think it's a parallel like everything else we're seeing. Plants will show signs of heat stress and even start to shut down at 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, it was 82. The plants were hotter than the road and the sidewalk. Make that make sense. What about y'all? Does it seem different to you too?
I mean, honestly, yes, the sun does seem different to me. It's got a much more wider contrast to it, and it does feel much hotter. Now, to say that a lot of things are going to die, let's hope not. I have tons of plants around my house that me and my wife take care of. And here in South Carolina specifically, we've had a drought for a couple of months. Well, just recently it just started to rain. But within that time frame, we had to take care of the plants ourselves. We had to water them, make sure that there was proper shade when needed, and I mean the plants are doing fine. And so far, so are all the animals around us. With this heat, I personally do not believe it's going to be as doom and gloom as Henry here has explained it, but it is going to be nasty. But yes, I do notice a big difference in the sun than what I felt about 15 years ago. Let me know if any of you can relate as well.
I feel happy. I feel healthy. I'm a human being.
Same here, man. Same here. Alright guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end today's video. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching these clips with me. I would also like to say my respiratory system is giving me a little bit of a problem. We're doing a lot of field work, a lot of dust is being lifted in the air, and it's just rough. So sorry if I sounded really winded and or really nasally through this episode. With that, there will be no 4 o'clock in the afternoon video. I'm just gonna rest up on this one. But if today's your birthday, happy birthday, and if not, have a good day anyways.